Lovely. Good morning, everybody. And thank you for popping by. Let's hope a few more people come in. The first thing that I want to say is that if you're having a bit of a hard time of it at the moment, it's not your fault because you can only carry on with the information that you've picked up on the way through your life. The thing is that when we're born, we're only frightened or fearful of two things. That's being dropped and loud noises. So every other fear that you've picked up on the way, you've actually learned that fear. So the fear of what might happen in the future, or I'm frightened to do this, or frightened to make a move in my business, that's all learned. That's not the way your mind should work and operate properly. So for you to move forward, you've got to be in a position where you allow yourself to take on more information. And normally what happens when I speak, because the people are sitting there with their arms crossed looking at me like that, going, go on in, clever, teach me something, right? And quite a way through the talk, they might sort of say, hang on a minute, this guy's got something, but they've missed all the previous information. So what I would suggest that you do is just for an hour, forget what you've actually learned so far and take this on, right, at face value. And then afterwards, I'll be around or you can contact me. And there's anything confusing you or anything you think's a load of rubbish, tell me and I'll try and explain why it's not a load of rubbish. Okay. Basically, I think what the situation is, there's an old story of that Plato told thousands of years ago, where the slaves were all kept in a cave, and on the wall were the images, the shadows and silhouettes of people walking by with cutouts of trees, cutouts of animals, and everyone believed that was what it was like in life. Then one day, one of the slaves slipped the chains, went to the edge of the cave. He looked outside, he thought, bloody hell, what's going on here? What on earth is all this about? The smell, the beautiful smell, the trees, the warmth of the sun and everything. He couldn't, it was absolutely amazed by what he saw. So he rushed back to tell everybody what he had seen. But no one believed him. It was the truth versus the appearance. They all believed that what they knew was the truth. And they did not, the trouble he had trying to explain that information was unbelievable. So this is the situation now. Just consider me as the slave that slipped the net, and I've gone to the edge of the cave and I've had a look at how these teachings work for you. And I'm back now to tell you about it. So just relax, take it on board, and as I say, just absorb it, because this is very powerful stuff. Now, I said that we're programmed from a very early age, and especially in when a lot of you will be actually self-employed or entrepreneurial in some way or another, and you are now trying to run a business with the programming that got you through to the corporate world or whatever. You're trying to run a business with information that served you in a different life. So if you actually want to make a success of your business, you've got to take on some more information, okay? Because business is, let's say, let's just assume 4 stages. The first one is what I call the struggle. That's when you first start. We've all been there. Struggle, the pain, the bits and pieces. And not very many people get off that step. That's why you get a lot of people advising you not to open a business, because struggle step isn't very nice. But after struggle, we go on to strive, which is a joyous, wonderful, happy step, because that's the step where all of a sudden you've worked out how things are going to happen and you can't wait for the next day. You can't wait for something to happen, right? It's pulling you along because you're allowing it all to unflow. And that's a very relaxing stage. And then we go on to conservative normal stage, which I consider the boring stage. Which is where you've got everything sorted out and it's just popping along doing what you need it to do, and that can be very boring. And that's really where your knowledge is going to take you, right, to that stage. Now you need to take on more knowledge to get to the area of what I call exponential success. Above that mundane business is a whole new world, but you've got to allow it to unfold. When I start working with people, I always say to them, look, when you work with me, you will do less and you'll earn more. You'll work less and earn more, whichever. So you bloody idiot. And they switch off at that point, really, because they don't believe that's possible. But the thing is, the less you work and the more you can earn, the more valuable your business is and the better you feel about it. Because a lot of people, they've been fed this thing of work-life balance, right? Now, work-life balance to me is a load of rubbish, because if you balance something, you need exactly the same thing on both sides. Now, who wants to work as much as they play? I want to play a hell of a lot more than I work. So all of a sudden, once again, that subliminal programming. So when you stop working, you think things are out of balance. Hang on, I've got to work to balance it up because I've got to keep this thing balanced. It's rubbish. Consider life as a straight line, okay? And once you know the rules, you will know when to work and you'll know when to play, because a lot of us, we kid ourselves. And the reason that I can say to people you're going to work less is because a good percentage of your day is taken up kidding to yourself, lying to yourself, making up stories. Oh, hang on, I better just get onto Facebook or LinkedIn and check a few things. And a couple of hours later, oh, that was handy. 2 hours work I've done. Well, you haven't. Right? So we're kidding ourselves. We get our day filled up with rubbish. Okay? So one of the first things you can do to change your business is to devote, listen, just 2 hours a day, preferably first thing, and switch off your phone, switch off Facebook, switch off LinkedIn, switch off every other interference, and just concentrate on what you've got to do without any other interference. And you'll find that at this point in time, 2 hours a day will be sufficient to cover your day's work. Then the rest of the day you can play act as much as possible. But the difference is, at the end of the day, you're going to have a result, because there's no better feeling than sitting down at the end of the day and going, yeah, solved it, done that. Right? Because a lot of you will be getting to the end of the day, flopping down in the chair and go, oh, I'm exhausted. And then you look at it and you haven't achieved anything. You haven't actually achieved anything, right? So once again, all these teachings fly in the face. No one's ever told you to just relax and calm down and you'll achieve more. No one's told you that, because we're all programmed to associate work with money. And if you ever see work and money in the same sentence, someone's got it wrong. They've made a mistake, because they're not related at all. Hard work and money are not related. So your first bit of programming that you've got to do is start disassociating hard work and money, because most of the very, very wealthy people I know appear to do nothing, right? So the two aren't related. So get out of your mind that you've got to be 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, hustle and bustle and doing it all. Just calm down, relax, and you'll find that you will achieve so much more. So the first thing that you've got to do is put by those 2 hours, okay? 2 hours, and you will find that you will have got your day's work done. I'm not saying maybe or possibly. I'm telling you, once you realize how much time you are actually wasting, you will start creating results. And the other thing that you can do is spend a bit of time getting rid of all those people that are you're on their list or whatever, right? Clear it all up, because all of a sudden you look and it looks all really busy, but it's just sales blurb or people contacting you. Your email should be there to serve you, not everybody else. So have a clean up, go on the unsubscribe button, clean your email up, right? So that you're not being constantly bombarded with all that information. And also get out of the habit. That's why you've got to turn your phone off and all the other notifications, because we've been programmed now since the advent of the internet and all that sort of thing. We've been programmed to respond. Ping! What's that? Oh, good. And all of a sudden, you pick it up and you press the thing, and then all of you've forgotten what you were doing, and you've gone on this whole new trip, right? So get in the habit of, if you do get a communication, deal with it to suit you, because we appear to be on call 24/7. I mean, I haven't even got my phone in here with me because I don't. It serves me. But the point is, the other day someone got hold of me and they said, "What's going on?" I said, "What do you mean? What's going on?" So, well, I tried to ring you the other day, and you didn't answer. I said, "No, I don't have my phone on me when I'm in the office. That's my time for me doing my work." And they got sort of a bit arsy about the fact that I wasn't available to deal with them at the drop of a hat. So you see how this programming, right, is all alien to actually getting hold of a living, because a lot of things that people do as well is they confuse why they're doing their business. And I've heard it all over the last 30 years. What do you enjoy? Oh, because I'm helping humanity. Oh, because I'm doing this and for the good of this, and rubbish. The only reason you've got a business, when you take everything else away, is to earn money. And if the less effort you put in, the more money you get, the better your business is. But we're all programmed, right, to sort of get this excuse as to what we're actually doing. Oh, I'm doing, I help businesses do this and do that. Yeah, they're great. That's what you do. But the real truth is that you're doing it because you want to get money. And we tend to make it hard work, because this is going to be another statement. Write this down because you can laugh at this later. Money is the easiest thing to get out of your business, right? Money is the easiest thing to get out of your business. True story. But we all make it the hardest thing, because that's where we're programmed, that money is hard to get. Work and money are associated. Rubbish. The way to earn money and make your business earn money is to create a process. There's two processes, and people mix these two up as well, right? There is marketing and there is sales. Two totally different things, but people confuse them and they get all this candy floss and ball of string type thing of everything's all mixed up. Well, trying this and trying that. Once you stop it, this is as hard as I can make it. Your business is marketing and sales. Marketing, that is going into the marketplace, creating an interest and getting someone to say, whoa, I like what you're selling. That's marketing. However you want to wrap it up, that's it. Go into the marketplace, find someone who's interested in what you've got, who says, oh, I'd like to know more. So what you do is you get a process that works. You've only got to get it to work once. And then what you do is you keep repeating it, refining it, repeat it, refine it, repeat it, but don't change it. Refine it, but that's it. That works. You've gone into the marketplace, and as you learn things on the way, within your marketing parameters, just create a marketing process. That's it. Number two, you've now got someone that is interested in what you've got to sell. So you now need a process that takes them from interest in what you've got to sell to, oh, can I have one of them? I'd like to buy that. Once again, Don't mix it up with marketing. Marketing is getting that person at the start of it. This is process number 2. Process number 2, I'm interested in what you've got for sale, to I'd like to buy what you've got for sale. So what you need now is a process for that. There will be a pitch, there will be all the different bits and pieces that you've got, but create a process so it's repeatable, right? Don't go out there and you go fishing. You don't put a different bit of bait on every time you pull the hook out. Little maggot, the old carp like that little maggot. I'll keep using them. If I get a big juicy one, I'll put it on. But don't try and change things once you know what works. Just keep baiting your hook for your marketing, and with your sales, just get something that works, that people is going to come along and they're going to say, yeah, I like that. That's as hard as I can make it. And you think of it about your business and whatever you've got going on in your business, those 2 things will change everything. But everyone mixes it all up, and they're trying to, halfway through the marketing process, they're trying to get heavy on selling. Well, during the marketing process, sales has got nothing to do with it. We just want to get someone to present to say, yeah, I'm interested. And then the sales process takes over. So all you've got is 2 processes. Now, I just said making money is the easiest thing that you can possibly have in business, right? Making money is the easiest part. We all make it the hard part. With them 2 processes, all you do is just keep repeating the processes. Don't worry about it. The money will take care of itself, provided you get the processes right. The hard thing about business, and what we don't value, is our ability to do what it is that we do. Because that's, whatever it is you do, if you're a lawyer, or if you a carpenter, or whatever it is you do, your knowledge and wisdom to do it is the hard bit. But because we can do it, we don't value it. It's a little bit like when you first look at someone tying their shoelaces and we think, bloody hell, I don't think I'll ever be able to do that. And now you do it without thinking, to the point of, if you try and imagine yourself tying it, you can't actually remember in your mind exactly how you do it, because it's so very pilot of how you tie your shoelaces. And do you know what? There's so many different ways of doing it. So no one's right or wrong. There's just a different way of doing it. But so that is the knowledge. Now you do it without thinking. So you don't value tying your shoelaces. You give no value at all to it. But for someone who don't know how to tie their shoelaces, you look like a genius, right? So start valuing your ability, because that is the hard part to get, right? So you'll set now into money's the easiest bit to get. The ability to do what you do is the hard bit, and you don't value it. So start reframing yourself and value what you're doing. That makes it a lot easier when you come to doing your pricing then, because you think everybody knows what you know, but they don't, right? So it makes it easier to price it if you do actually value what you do. And then you need 2 processes, marketing and sales. That, my friends, is as hard as I can make it for you to change your business. Now, what stops you doing it? And I had a client the other day, an ex-client who were having a bit of trouble because they're not taking on board the teachings. This isn't magic. Okay, it isn't magic. It's like, when things change, people start changing their processes. Oh, go here, do this, do that. They change it, dramatically change it. So all of a sudden, they're not getting any momentum or run at any one thing. It's always changing all the time. And one of the main things that you've got to do is remember, not magic. It's magical in its results, but it is not actually magic. Okay. Hello, Ken. How did you get here? That's all right. How you doing? Yeah, it's good. So it's magical It's not magic. And what you've got to do is you've got to remember that it will all take time. Now, if you are not relaxed, it don't work at all. That is the horrible thing about it. So when you start getting stressed and you put these things into play, you've got to allow them to happen. You've got to allow them to work. I always liken it to a bloke who's, let's just say someone's just bought a farm and he's been given a bag of seeds, right? But he don't really know much about farming. So what he does is he plants the seeds, and then a couple of weeks later, he says, bloody hell, nothing's happening, and he digs them up to have a look, just check whether they are working or not, and then puts them back down the hill. Well, he's got no chance at all of that thing happening because you've got to trust the process, right? And that's what this is. Once you actually do everything that I explained to you, it's impossible for it not to work. But we all override it because our day-to-day stuff's done with our conscious mind. But the governor is your subconscious mind, right? So we can think that we are actually putting out a message of relaxation and doing everything you're saying, and in your conscious mind you actually convinced yourself that's true. But you've got to come from a much deeper place. And that's where all the truth comes from. And when you sit down and you go, oh, yes, yeah, everything seems to be happening all right. And I believe it is happening all right, but it's not, right? Because you're trying to force it. And all the time that you try and direct operations, you're just confusing what's going on, right? So you've got to trust the process. And as I just said, there's only two things that you've got to do in business: have a marketing process and a sales process. And if you make anything, then you have a production process, but that's a story for another day. But to actually get money in a business, you and sales. But what we do, the minute that we get into stormy waters, we try and change everything. We try and reinvent everything, right? But if you get into trouble, just look at nature. Nature has any problem with following the program that they were given when that was born or when it was created. A tree, you go and pick up a little acorn and try and convince it to grow into a beech tree. It won't listen. It won't listen. You plant that acorn, it grows into an oak tree 100%. No ifs or buts. But what we've done is we've been given the ability to think and consider. So what we've done over the period of time is we've changed our thinking. But this all really changed during the Industrial Revolution. Can someone turn their mic off? I can hear a load of clunking. This happened in the Industrial Revolution, okay, whereby they needed people to go and work in the factories. So what did they do? They thought, Gordon Bennett, them little street urchins, there's no chance of getting them and standing them in front of a machine pulling an handle for 8 or 9 hours a day. It'd be impossible. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll educate them to work in a factory under the guise of giving them things. But the basic thing that we'll do is we'll train them to be compliant to working for the man, right? Get a proper job, right? Security. If you've got a proper job, you've got security. Tell that to a few of the major companies at the moment, right? But the process is, if you've worked for the man and you've got a proper job, everything will be all right. That is the programming, right? So we go through this whole process, and it's still the same today, with give or take, but with all this wokeness and that, it's all changing a little bit. But the thing is, it's still the same today. We are trained, programmed to believe that working for the man is the answer. But most people watching this will have broken out. They would have broken out from that, and they will be working for themselves. But the trouble is that a lot of people that are working for themselves are using the programming that trained them to work in a factory. Right? True story. Unbelievable, but true. So you're actually trying to run your business on a program that doesn't serve what you're doing. And the main thing that you've got to do once you burst out of the programming that you've had, which is keeping you pinned down, the line, do this, do that, programming all the time, subliminal messages, brainwashing all the time. We're being programmed, same as what's happening at the moment. We're being bombarded at the moment with all contradicting information from every different quarter. But the main bit of programming is to get us to comply, right? Whatever your thoughts are, that is what the programming is meant to do at the moment. So we are programmable, right? Because if I tell you to think of a house, however many's watching this now, there's 11 pictures of different houses, okay? But if I say to you, think of a little cottage in the country with a little thatched roof, chimney with the smoke coming out of it, nice little picket fence with a little path leading up to the doorway, set in a forest, we virtually got the same picture. So we are programmable, right? By what we take in, we can be programmed, right? But the thing is that we don't know what to do with that information, because if that information doesn't resonate, then it's no good. So what I'm saying to you is what you've got now, where you're trying to run your business with the programming that you've got now, it won't serve you, because you're like the farmer that's trying to dig up the seed to see if it's working. You've got to trust it. You've got to trust the information. Information is that once you've put the process into place, you've got to allow it to work. And as I was going on to say, is I've got someone at the moment that is in so much trouble that they can't let things work for them, if that makes sense, right? Because they're panicking now, so they're not trusting the process, they're not trusting the teachings, they're not trusting it to happen, because they can't see it happening. Seed under the ground, right? They can't see it happening, and they don't know that it's all working, so they keep digging it up and trying to change things, and they will never move forward. And then they come along and they say, well, what you've told me is a load of rubbish. Well, it's not a load of rubbish, because if these teachings don't work, it's only because you haven't applied them properly, right? I'm sorry for the bad news, but that's it. Once you apply them properly, there is no way that they can't work, okay? But you've got to apply them properly, but they go into the face. They fly in the face of everything that you know to this point in time, okay? So what you've got to do when you've created your process for marketing and your process for sales, and if you need it, your process for manufacturing, right? Once you've done that, you've got to trust your process, okay? Not saying don't improve them or adjust them, knowing on, because now we get so many facts, don't we? We get, we can go, and not like the old days, you put an advert in the newspaper, you didn't have a clue how many people had looked at it or read it or whatever. Now you've got the benefit of knowing exactly how many's clicked on it, what they've done, where they've gone, all pixels and all that. So there's no excuse for not having an amazing process for doing both marketing and selling, right? You've got to then trust the process that you create, but don't worry about keep making it, improving it. And then we come to another problem, what I call transitional disruption, because once you start taking on this information, right, and change, there is going to be a bit of a jolt, because it's, you're changing everything. You just say, we stop the bloody phone ringing here and this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden, this transitional disruption, which we can't control, right? Because that is a natural thing. It's like, I liken it, well, I used to do renovations to properties, still do actually in my own little way, but renovation to properties. Now, I remember a guy coming in when I lived in Australia, and I just bought this house, and about 3 weeks in, I'd totally stripped it out, knocked walls out, done this, done that, and it was just it looked like a bomb site. And he come in and he said, bloody hell, how on earth do what on earth are you doing here? Now, I'm trying to explain to him what I'm doing, but he can't see it. But the funny thing is, I can't see it unfinished. I can only see it finished. because I know exactly, oh, the kitchen's going to be there, the lounge is going to be there. That's going to, so I can only see it finished. So there's the secret for getting through any disruption, right? You've got to know what your end game is. Okay. So if you haven't got an end game, you're just going to keep forever swirling around in the disruption. And that's where this guy is that I just mentioned, that he hasn't got faith and belief in where he's going to end up. And that basically is it. And once you programmed your subconscious to accept that and believe that it's going to be where you're going to end up, right, you're in trouble, because that is the secret of getting that information and belief that you're going to get there. That will then pull you through, like going through that rubble and everything. I mean, what could I end up with if I'd have turned up every day smashing walls down without a plan as to where I was going to end up? So make sure that you know where you're going. Okay. Now, the other thing is that this is a progressional process, right? Whereby as you get on one step, you learn more, you learn more, you learn more. I mean, I always liken it. I say this, like I say, that glass, inside that glass is all your problems, the things you're worrying about, everything is all inside. That's the water. The glass is your awareness. That is, let's just assume that's what you've got now. Now, if I start swinging that glass round, swinging it round and round and round, what's going to happen? All those problems and worries are just going to go all over the place. I've got no control. But what do we need then to control the same amount of problems and worries? We need a bigger container, awareness. So what you need to do is you need to take, the more aware you become, the more control you get over your problems and the situations. Okay. So it's purely and simply awareness. And the awareness comes through applying and seeing the results. There's nothing better. But all the time, you see, this is where it's a problem, and it flies in the face of it, because if you're really, really stressed, it doesn't work. It's impossible for it to work. I mean, when I learned all this stuff about 30 years ago, I lost everything. I had someone I'd sort of made into a director who'd gone in and did a load of skullduggery. But the bottom line is that I ended up with no business. And it was a bit of a troubling time. So it was twofold. What was happening there was, number one, every day I got up wanting to knock the crap out of the guy that had done it to me. And number two, I was trying to get back too quickly what had happened, what I'd lost. Right. So I think I'm skint. But when I sold everything up before the banks got hold of it, sold all the property and this, that, and the other, I ended up with $250,000. Now I think I'm skint. Everyone else around me thinks I'm all right, thinks I've got a few quid, I'm rich, you know, which is all relevant. But I think I'm skint. So that's what I was saying to you earlier. You've got to reposition yourself. You've got to reframe where you are. I think I'm skint. So now in my stress state, I'm going to take the 200,000 that I've got and overnight turn it back into the millions what I've lost, right? Well, you know that's a load of rubbish. I know that's a load of rubbish, right? But state, you can't convince yourself, right? So I was in a situation whereby now I've got a few quid. So what I did is I thought, well, I'll open another business. Now, I'd said to my wife in a previous life, don't ever let me get back into the hospitality industry, because it's the hardest way known to man to get a living. So what do I do with me 250 grand? I set up a dessert restaurant, right? Long story, but anyway, so I set up a dessert restaurant and set about having all that, everything's done lovely, beautiful booths, stores, etched windows and oh, it was beautiful. And I knocked me 250 grand out setting it all up because I'm going to set up some franchises and get all my money back in one hit, right? So, anyway, 2 years later, there's me, miserable as sin, can't make nothing work. It wasn't unsuccessful, but it was getting too bloody hard. So I put the key in the door. One of the best days of my life, putting the key in the door to a business that I'd invested 250 grand and 80 hours a week, me and my wife, for 2 years. One of the best days of my life. Don't make any sense, does it? But the great things, I'd made a decision and then I could move on. But that's called sunk investment. All right. Now, this is a great bit of value. Take notice of this. If you've got to make a decision with regards your business, make it based on the facts. All right. Make it based on right or wrong. Because what we tend to do is someone comes along and it says, this ain't working. You know, my advice to you is to sort of move on, you know, cash it in and move on. Oh, I couldn't do that. I've been working at it for 3 years. It don't make it right. The fact that you've worked at it for 3 years, unfortunate, but the truth is it don't. Right? Oh, I've invested all that money in it. Yeah. Make it right. It means you've invested money in it. Divorce yourself from the investment and make the decision. Absolute gold, because that was the thing that got me back into the game, because I made a decision and said, I ain't staying here carrying on going through this purgatory to get there. Made the decision and then thought, well, I'm gone for all money because I'm still trying to rush to get things sorted and I can't make things work. And I've been a businessman and, you know, with lots of different companies and all that. Wasn't worried about starting companies or anything. But what was happening was I was trying to make them work too quick. All the time in the past, it had just been allow things to unfold. But now I need it. What I want to happen in 2 weeks? Well, once you stand back and look at yourself, you think, oh, that makes sense. I can't do it. So what I had to do, and if any of you are in a situation where you're spinning your wheels and you're not getting anywhere, trust me, I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt, everything. Stand back and relax. Because listen what some bloke said to me, right? I told him my story and he said, oh, that was clever, Croz. He said, do you know what? If you'd have rung me 2 years ago, what I'd have told you to do? What's that then? I'd have told you to go and sit by your pool. Even rented houses had pools in Australia. Lovely, wasn't it? So I went by my pool. I said, I'd have advised you, go and sit by your pool, pay yourself 25 grand a year for 2 years, get your head together, and then you're going to have 200 grand to start a business and know what you're going to do with it. Now, that would have been amazing advice, but I don't think I could have took it at the time because I was all in this rush state. But how much sense does that make? I'd gone through purgatory for 2 years trying to get hold of what I'd lost in get it in 5 minutes, what it took me 40 years to get hold of, right? So all of a sudden, that makes a lot of sense. Yet if someone says to you when you're in trouble, just sit down, relax, get your head together. There's no rush, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't make any sense at all, right? So you've got to fight those feelings and you've got to do it. So if you're in a situation at the moment where you're panicking, and there's a lot of people panicking at the moment because we're having the great difficulty in trying to sort out what the bloody hell's the other side of all what's happening at the moment, right? But what you've got to do is you've got to pitch yourself past that. So whatever you're seeing or whatever the things that's going on, make them a possibility on the path to what you want. Don't make them the end game, because if you make them the end game, you're gone for all money. So get out of it. Just get something the other side of that. Because think 100% now, every single problem that you've ever had, and you've even had the biggest problems ever, you've got over it and everything has sorted itself out. Okay? Every single problem that you've ever come. So whatever's happening to you at the moment, and I know a lot of people are saying, yeah, but this is the worst, this is the biggest, the highest, the longest, the widest, the deepest problem ever. No one, thanks very much for the information, by the way, but it won't help me because I'm in so much trouble, it won't help. Rubbish. Every single thing that's ever happened in your life, you've got over that hurdle, right? So there's no earthly reason, no logic why you ain't going to get over this hurdle. So that's the first thing to do. Reprogram it and pitch yourself further into the future, past any problems that you can see. You set them because you're gonna get over those problems. So you're only kidding yourself. It's just a bit of programming. Hang on a minute. What I'm just going to do, I didn't realise this because there's some messages here. Spot on, because I'm enjoying your talk. Great for sharing. Oh, thanks very much, Philip. That's lovely. Right in the room. Can you share about your book and how it overlaps with the Science to Get Rich? This was a great resource for me. Good practical advice. I must go in 10 minutes as I have a client meeting. Have fun. Oh, great. Well, thanks a lot, Philip. Yeah. Well, that is what changed my life, because I was trying to call on all the information. I'd read all the books, you know, to Think and Grow Rich and Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits, and all the Tony Robbins Unleashed the Power. I'd read everything. But you see, let me tell you something. This is a little secret. All the time that you are relaxed and allowing things to happen, all that self-development stuff works. It don't matter where you get it or who tells you it, it will work because you're allowing it to work. I call it the law of allowing, right? So it doesn't matter, provided that you're relaxed. But see, what we do, when you're in trouble, you get hold of a book and you read it, and then 10 days later, oh, nothing's happened. Boom, another book. This is definitely the one because it says on the cover, this is the secret. This is what's going to happen. And you read that one, nothing happens. So what you're doing is you're just getting more and more conflicting information. So my advice is get hold of one source of information. For me, it was the Science of Getting Rich, like my Bible, the Science of Getting Rich. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Flew in the face of everything I knew. It flew in the face of everything I knew. But I said that someone had said to me, this is, you know, this is a good thing, read it. But if I try to fit it in with all the other stuff that I'd read, it wasn't going to make any sense. So I said, right, in isolation, I am going to take that information and I'm going to see what happens. And to be honest with you, I sort of went into it thinking it was a load of rubbish and I was going to prove it all wrong once and for all, because I was going to do exactly what I was told. Because that guy, Wallace Wattles, said, if you do exactly what you do, you cannot fail. Well, no one had ever said that before, but it depended on doing exactly what he told you to do, right? So many people are told to do things and they half do it, or they say, well, I'll do that later and pretend I've done it, right? And they're surprised they don't get any results. So what I did, because I was in terrible, terrible trouble. And I was at the bottom of the bloody steps. You couldn't have got any lower than me. I was skint. I'd worked 2 years to get rid of me 250 grand and, you know, built a business, which wasn't a complete failure, but I wasn't enjoying it. And I don't think I was going to be able to sell it because it didn't have the track record and all the bits and pieces anyway. So I walked away and just left it to the bloke, the thing in return for him not chasing me for any rent, which was a good deal as it happens. So I've got a situation where I'm at the bottom of the steps. Now, how many can identify with this? How many times have you stood at the bottom of your stairs and pondered the idea of getting up the top in one leap? Right? You wouldn't, would you? Right? You know, you wouldn't even have those thoughts. But in business and life, we're at the bottom and we're looking at the top and we want to get up in one leap. It ain't going to happen. Now, I'd been to the top in quite a big way. I mean, all the toys, the Rolls Royces, big houses and all the bits and pieces. And now I've got nothing. I had to borrow 500 quid off a pal of mine who knew the state I was in. So I'm eternally grateful to him because I couldn't get anything anywhere, right? Because I'd blown the lot. So I had a situation where he lent me 500 quid to go and do start again. And I just applied all the teachings, right? And the thing was that all the way through, I said, I've been here before, right? So whatever step you're on, whether it's struggle street, striving, conservative, or whether you're in exponential success, it doesn't matter. You've been there before. So getting to the next step is great because you've been there before. So you don't have to spend too long. But if you're on a step that you haven't been before, don't be too quick, too eager to get on the next step. That will naturally occur. That's the law of nature, that once you outgrow that step, you'll go on to the next step. But you can't keep jumping. What happened? The geezer that done that thing with my business, he wasn't a businessman, but he'd nicked a business, right? And it's a story for another day. But he'd nicked the business and he's gone from the bottom to the top, which is totally unnatural. So when he's up the top here, he's running with the momentum, but then something goes wrong, like a step. And he looks around and says, what's going on here? I've never been here before. There's only one way he can go. He can't get back up because he ain't got the knowledge and ability for all the steps that he should have come up. So he bounced, bump, 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 and ended up down the bottom, which is naturally what happens. That is naturally what happens. If you skip the steps, whatever step you get on, you're in unknown territory. And business relies on natural growth. If anything that you do unnatural, if you want answers to anything, just look at nature. Nature's got every answer. Nothing rushes, right? It's all just in a natural, orderly space. Never ceases to amaze me at the moment, all the daffodils coming out. Now, they don't make a mistake and come out in the autumn, do they? They come out in the spring. Just as spring, and they start blooming. They got their program. They don't fight it and say, hang on a minute, I've got a good idea, daffodils. Let's kid them. Let's all stay under the ground until the autumn. That'll fool them. They don't bother. There's no point in doing that and changing the program. They just allow things to happen. So if you want things to unfold, it's got to be natural. And every time something goes wrong in our business or our life, it's because we're trying to force the natural process. None of this stuff works if you want to take control and you want to start, how can I say, pushing things against the flow, right? It's natural. I always say about a little leaf. That's the natural thing. When a leaf lands on the water, it's floating along lovely, going along like that. It don't ever say, hang on a minute, there's a good old log over there. I think I'll go and wedge myself behind that log. You don't say that. It just follows the flow. And then it gets to a waterfall. All natural. Goes through the waterfall. And when it's going through all the turmoil of the waterfall going down, it just lets itself go, right? Because that's the transitional disruption. You're going from one level to another. Transitional disruption. And it just allows it to happen. And it goes through all the turmoil. Then all of a sudden, down the stream, what happens? Our little leaf appears again. He's just relied on the natural process. So if you fight it, especially when you're in turmoil, when you're in transitional disruption, all you're going to do is create problems. Okay? So that's about what I've got to say for now. I don't know whether you can come in, but if you want any questions answered, bung them in that in the chat. Just put something in there and I'll answer it. There's bound to be something there that you need to know the answer to.
Hey, your workshop, exactly.
Oh, there's my workshop. I forgot to mention that. I forgot to mention it.
Hey, your workshop.
I forgot to mention it. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put the thing in here. And I tell you what I'll do for everybody watching, because I am a nice fella at heart, for everybody watching, if you put the word lockdown in capital letters in when you buy your ticket, if you buy your ticket, all right, there's the thing there. That's the thing, and I'll put that
That's
in there.
bloody
You
marvellous,
will
Croz.
get a 50%
And I've got a guy
discount.
on
Now, how
Facebook
bad's
who
that,
says, Mike, will this be running again or can I catch up? But what I'm going to do, oh, blimey, I've got the echo. Where have we got the echo coming from? But what I'm going to do is I will send him that offer as well, if you don't mind. Yeah,
It's all right.
Guy called Jack Bellingham, lovely man. In fact, you would love him.
All right. Yeah,
you would actually really love him. Jack Bellingham is a boxer, gas fitter. Yeah, great business here in Plymouth. Does a lot for the community. But yeah, I'll send him that and those details. Yeah,
brilliant.
You did a fantastic job, mate.
Brilliant.
Yeah, really.
So no questions there. Was that all right, Mike?
Well, it's better than not knowing what you said.
I never know what I'm going to say when I start.
No, that was marvelous. I wasn't.
No,
I wasn't on screen, but I was listening all the way through that and busting away like fury. Otherwise, you know what these things are like. But that was great, really good. So, so this is where we're at. We've obviously heard from Croz. Croz, you're welcome to stick around for as much of the day as you want to stick around for. We've got Jenny Legger. Change to the program. We've had somebody unfortunately had to drop out. They've had some problems and some family problems they've had to deal with. So Jenny Legger has moved up the schedule. She's going to be talking about Dragon Ball and a lot more about dragons and children's education. That's starting in about 15 minutes, so enough time to go and get a cup of tea and get a sandwich in that time. And then at 2 o'clock we've got Cheryl Andrews. And where is seven principles of something? 7 principles of motivated action, and that's at 2 o'clock. And at 3:10 we have where is he? From lockdown likes to long-term loves. Richard Forshaw Smith did this talk last week at Wow Devon. Went down an absolute storm, and he's back again at 3:10. And then I have stepped into the breach. We're going to do a whole thing about social media, all starting at 4:20. So that's the schedule for the rest of the day. All the details are in the reception and in the in the reception area. Yeah, Gordon had to drop out, unfortunately. Yeah, so he'll be back next week. Oh, I'm not sure whether he's doing Dorset or Plymouth, but he'll be one or the other next week. On Tuesday or Thursday. So there you go. That's what's happening. So, Croz, I'm going to clear the room unless we've got any more questions. I'll drop you a line, Croz, separately.
No, nothing there.
And then we can follow up. But yeah, thank you very much. Great presentation, everything that I would expect from you. An absolute master of doing this, let alone a master of mindset. Thank you very much, Croz. Take good care. And you.
You're more than welcome. Cheers, Mike. Catch you later.